Hi guys, Thierry Rocks here, and today, before we start the album review, I just wanted to say thank you so much for 2,000 subscribers on my YouTube channel. Just wow. Almost 15 years of being on YouTube. Well, technically videos for 13 years, if you count my first video was in 2012, but yeah, all these years and I have 2,000 subscribers. Thank you so much, guys. I'm so honored. Whether you're a long-time viewer or I don't know, you subscribed because of one of my meme videos or clips that went viral and you subscribed, it's fine. If you hate my content but you subscribed, well, that's fine as well. Just thank you regardless. This is amazing. It has taken me a while to actually acknowledge it. I reached 2,000 subscribers. It was like end of July, I think I officially hit the count, but I've not decided to do a video until now. And that's mainly because I was wondering, what can I do as a special video for this milestone? Well, obviously, if you've read the title, I am doing a very special album review. An album that I would honestly consider to be my favourite album of all time. I've listened to a lot of different music over the years, a lot of great albums, but this one right here, this is the peak of the mountain in terms of just, my tastes. So today, we will be reviewing Linkin Park's phenomenal second studio album, Meteora, released way back in March of 2003. Now, Linkin Park, do I really have to introduce them? They were easily the defining band of the 2000s decade. Now, in terms of Linkin Park's history, I can really sum it up quickly. The band formed in the mid-90s. They went through a few name changes, but they were known as Zero, spelled with an X. Mark Wakefield was their original singer, but in 1999, Chester Bennington joined the band after he was in Grey Days, his grunge-type sounding band. And then the band ended up releasing their major debut album, Hybrid Theory. That album went multiple times diamond. Yeah, not just platinum, diamond. So tens of millions of copies sold around the world. Easily the most popular and well-known nu metal album of all time. This album was probably responsible for a lot of people, getting into more alternative and heavier music. I'm not reviewing Hybrid Theory though, because everybody has talked about that album to death. I'd prefer to talk about Meteora, just because, as popular as it is, it kind of feels like it lives in the shadow of its older brother. But yeah, obviously, Linkin Park, the first couple of years they were popular were probably their peak. You had Reanimation, the remix album, Collision Course, the album with Jay-Z on it, and the live album as well. Tons of live albums. Then Minutes to Midnight released, and they went in a more alternative rock direction. And then the band, they were still popular in terms of, hits and being well known, but they went in decline quite massively in the 2010s. And everybody just kind of had the consensus that their early work was way better. Their last album was a massive bomb. It was just a straight up pop album. Unfortunately, 2 months after the album's release, Chester Bennington would take his own life in July of 2017. So the band after that were pretty much defunct. I mean, losing their frontman to, the band wasn't exactly sure what to do. Eventually, they ended up finding a new singer, Emily Armstrong. Now, I'll give my own opinions on her. She's a very good singer, but I just don't care for this era of the band. I did listen to the new album, and I'm glad that it went in back to the heavier sort of direction that the band were known for. It was a proper, nu metal album, but it just didn't do anything for me emotionally. It might as well be a tribute band with a female singer. It's kind of like Queen with Adam Lambert. It's technically the same thing, the same members, but it's just not the same. It never will be. Rest in peace, Chester. Now, Hybrid Theory was so big, it kind of blew up, overnight. It was, the best-selling album of 2001. I think they were nominated for, the Best New Artist, at the Grammys. They didn't win, unfortunately, but they were nominated. Tons of hit singles. They were pretty much responsible for sort of like nu metal going in the kind of more melodic commercial direction compared to like how kind of edgy and heavy it was in the late 90s. So yeah, before Meteora's release in 2003, there was kind of a lot of hype, but did it end up living up to Hybrid Theory? Well, this review will prove it. The title Meteora as well is also quite interesting because it relates to a series of like rock formations or like a landmark in Greece, which was kind of like, I believe they chose the name because it just sounded like massive, you know, and they wanted to convey that with this album. Now, my personal history with the album, obviously, I was very young back in '03. You know, I was a toddler, and even when I was a kid, I didn't really listen to heavy music. It wouldn't be until I was like a teenager in the 2010s I heard Faint from this album, I think about 2013. But it wouldn't be until the summer of 2016 when I finally gave this album a full listen. And probably over the course of that 9 years, I've listened to the album probably like over 50 times, I want to say. I just love it so much. I mean, I love this album so much that I own multiple copies of it. This was my original CD I got this in 2017 in Tesco. So yeah, that's in the plastic jewel case. The album cover is like very iconic, similar to Hybrid Theory, but instead of the soldier, it's I think this is Mike Shinoda, you know, in the gas mask in the studio, doing the spray paint and everything. You know, they were all about the sort of like alternative and hip hop combo. But yeah, sadly, this hasn't stood the test of time. My manual is like all ripped and everything. That's really sad. But yeah, the artwork had a big focus on these like spray cans and you know, like the behind the scenes in the studio. I also have the 2023 20th anniversary 3-disc set on CD with the kind of like aqua blue kind of look to it. You open that up. So obviously the original album with the song Lost added to it. Disc 2 has all the sort of LP Underground rarities. Like LP Underground discs were like probably some of their most like obscure albums, like the true fans know about those ones. And Disc 3 has all the sort of like rarities from 2003 to 2004. And to top it all, I also have the album on vinyl. It's a gatefold, you know, massive artwork of that wall, the graffiti wall. Now for some reason the disc colour they chose was like blue for some reason, which I don't really think it fits the album. I think they should have picked like maybe like khaki green or something like that. But, you know, at the time Meteora wasn't so popular on vinyl, so I had to pick it up. Anyways, without further ado, let's get into why I think Meteora by Linkin Park is my favourite album of all time and is a masterpiece of music. So track number 1 is Forward. Not going to talk about it much, but it's a 13-second long, I guess you'd call it an interlude, intro of, it sounds like, you know, some thumping and some rainfall, and then there's some smashing, and then glass smashes. We lead into track 2. It's interesting to note that this song is basically a relic of like the CD era. I mean, the song's just 13 seconds of noise. I mean, it's not even a song, technically. But before streaming and even before MP3s, you know, albums, you would listen to them, you know, all in one. Like it was kind of a ritual kind of thing. But anyways, Forward leads into the first proper track on the album, Don't Stay. We have that kind of like chugging train kind of sounding, you know, with the drums in the background. And then the guitars kicking. And then that absolute breakdown. And the drums and the guitars kicking. You know, just that classic like nu metal like riffage, just head bouncing. It's impossible to not like headbang to this track. This song is just straight up anger, being sick of that person's shit, being sick of your shit, you know, get away from me, you know, don't stay, forget all memories, forget all possibilities, what you were changing me into. Chester's like singing is just like fantastic on this one. You know, the difference between his melodic like sometimes I and then to the screaming, feel like screaming at myself. I also love the breakdown in the middle of the song. I don't need you anymore. I don't want to be ignored. Yeah, it's easy to like mock these songs nowadays as like teenage angst, but Linkin Park were just like, their songwriting was just on point. You know, all the instruments with just the vibes of just kind of like, you know, anger basically. And this track is an awesome. It's a perfect opener of just that like pent up aggression, like this is the new album, you know. So the song ends with some kind of like electronic kind of like, you know, noises of machinery and like a robot voice. Ooh. And then we immediately transition into track number 3, Somewhere I Belong. This was the first single on the album, released in early 2003. While this song doesn't completely like drift away from the sound on Hybrid Theory, it is noticeable that as a lead single, it is a lot more alternative rock and like gentler sounding compared to the first album. You know, the guitars at the beginning, they're a little bit more gentle. And then you just go into those, you know, those distorted riffs. When I hear this song, it's impossible just to like not imagine just rain, just like hitting the window and just like pouring down and just like a grey sky. The music video is awesome too. You know, it's got the whole band in there. I love the little like Gundam robots in the background, like a reference to Reanimation. The verses are brilliant. When this began, I had nothing to say, and I can feel all the loneliness inside of me. I was confused. You know, Chester and Mike kind of like trading each other really. This song, it's a lot more like sadder sounding, a lot more like somber, and the chorus is just absolutely fantastic. I wanna heal, I wanna feel what's close to something real. I wanna find something, I want it along, somewhere I belong. Fun fact, this was also, for a long time, well, as a teenager, my all-time favourite Linkin Park song. It's probably still in, like, the top 3, but back in the day, this was, like, my absolute favourite, because it wasn't as overplayed as some of the other songs on this album, so it felt a lot more special to me, if that makes sense. While Don't Stay is a very sort of, like, angry, sort of, like, resentful, standing up for yourself moment, Somewhere I Belong is more introspective. You know, like the title says, in this world, a lot of us, even though we're not alone, it's not impossible, you know, it's not out of the question that we feel lonely. And we just need somebody who cares and understands us. I also just love, like, in the middle of the song, I will never be anything till I break away from me. I will break away, I'll find myself today. You know, it's really just about, you know, wanting to just find peace in yourself. And, you know, sadly, there's a bit of a cry for help, and it's like we really should have listened to, like, what Chester was telling us with these songs. This song is a masterpiece. I love it so much. I still listen to it regularly. It makes me think of, like, AMVs. You know, it's perfect sort of, like, anime background music. Just those dramatic moments. It's, perfect song. I love it. Okay, the next one, track number 4, we're going back to the new metal shit, Lying From You. The song opens up with, they always kind of reminded me of like car horns for some reason. And then we get into those new metal riffs. Johan also does some great work on the turntable. You know, Mike primarily raps the verses on this song, but Chester also like intervenes as well. Lying my way from you, no turning back now, wanna be close to side, so let me go. Yeah, no turning back now. I just love how like these two play off each other really. It really makes them like what made Linkin Park like so iconic to begin with. I also just love that scream in the breakdown. The very worst party, yo, is me! And you know, Mike continuing with the rap. This isn't what I want it to be. This song is honestly just, if I could describe it, it would be like being on a roller coaster. Just like, you know, the valleys and hills, just the intensity, you know, just like the G-force just like smashing your like body and the intensity. I love this song so much. Then we lead into another heavy track. Track number 5 is Hit the Floor. The intro is a little bit more atmospheric. With those like samples, those high-pitched noises and the digitization. But then the drums kick in and another headbanger. Now this one primarily has like Mike doing the rapping in this one. I think this song is primarily about feeling that, you know, someone's presence is just very like toxic and you're dealing with like a person or thing that just makes you feel miserable and your life would be better off without them. The lyric that always stood out to me in Hit the Floor was, walk on eggshells all day long. I just want to feel like I'm not stepped on. I don't know why, just ever since I heard this album at 15, it's just stuck with me, you know? But the chorus is fantastic. 1 minute you're on top, just before you hit the floor. 1 minute you're on top, just before you hit the floor. But then it's all gone, and then it's all gone. And then like Mike does that kind of like quiet whisper rapping. Yeah, what comes up just has to fall. 1 minute you're on top. Yeah, this song is a banger. Really damn heavy, like honestly. One of their heaviest songs ever. The song ends quite abruptly and we immediately lead into track number 6, Easier to Run. This song is a straight up power ballad. It's a very somber and depressing like song. You can tell with like those keyboards in the background. And the chorus, it's easier to run. Now, I personally think this song, if you look at Meteora as a story, it's like the dark night of the soul moment of the album, which means like, you know, in a film or a book, a story, the protagonist is at like their lowest point in the story of hopelessness. This is like the saddest part of the album. This song has made me cry when I have been in that sort of mood before. The verses are incredibly melodic, no screaming, no heaviness, just Chester. Something has been taken from deep inside of me, a secret I kept locked away, no one can ever see. I also love Mike's verses as well. If I could change, I would, take all the blame, I would, trace every wrong move that I made, I would, if I could stand up and take the blame, I would. These lyrics have just like burnt into my brain, like I said, since like age 15. Personally, I think that verse number 2 is the most heartbreaking. So sometimes I remember the darkness of my past, bringing back these memories I wish I didn't have. You know, just looking back on, most of us can relate to these moments, just moments of the past that we wish never happened. Even if they made us grow, it doesn't mean that it hurts any less, you know. Chester absolutely belts it out in the middle of the song. Just washing it aside, all of the helplessness inside, pretending I don't feel this way. It's so much simpler to change. And then we get back into the chorus again. And then the song ends with like this kind of like reverb echo, and it kind of like fades out into kind of like, you know, the worst is over now, you know, you're calming down from like the mental breakdown. And then it immediately leads into one of the band's most famous and iconic songs, Faint. This was probably my second or third Linkin Park song. I don't remember the order I heard them in back in the day, but I have the music video on my favorites playlist like over 10 years ago. This song is iconic, just those sampled like violins. And then the verses. And that iconic rap, I am, little bit of loneliness, a little bit of disregard, handful of complaints, but I can't help the fact that everyone can see these scars. Linkin Park were just iconic songwriters. Like, they just put out, on the first two albums alone, just, absolute gold. Like, Cavemen Discovering Fire, just wow. Easier to Run, The Worst Is Over. Faint feels like picking yourself back up again. The classic chorus, I can't stand the way I did before. Don't turn your back on me, I won't be ignored. It's just like so energetic. It really just like perfectly fits in, I don't know, an anime fight scene, maybe something like a racing game or a sports game, something like that. The breakdown in the middle of the song is iconic, that screaming, no, hear me out now, you're gonna listen to me like it or not. This song is iconic. There's a reason that it was like such a big success and is like so well known. It is just amazing song. Now we're going to move into more of a deep cut. So this is track number 8, which I really think it should have been track 9, because this is Figure 09 or Figure .09, which is ironic because Trust Company has a song Figure 8. But yeah, this song kind of feels like a bit of a homage to One Step Closer, like the verses in particular. I love the guitars. Mike's verses are brilliant. All these thoughts with the things attached with them. Sometimes I wonder why this is happening. With all the infinite words I can say, I poured all the pain away and gave it away. I didn't realize, instead of setting it free, I took what I hated and made it a part of me. And then that chorus, Chester, never kills again, never kills again. And now you become a part of me. You'll always be my fear. I can't separate myself from what I've done. I've let myself become you. I also love the second verse. Hearing the name, the memories come back again. I started wondering why this is happening. Yeah, this song is like when a person has like influenced like your most toxic traits and has like unfortunately made you into like a worse person. And the best thing to do is to just sever the ties, honestly. The breakdown is also awesome. Get away from me! Give me my space back! You're gonna just get in the nose, so get away from me! Absolute new metal, just riffage. And we go back into like that awesome chorus again. This song and One Step Closer should be like remixed together. Everything you say to me, one step closer to the edge, and you become a part of me. They just like fit so well together. And I don't see that as a bad thing at all. I just kind of see these two albums as being sort of like twins in a really awesome way. The song ends with sounds of like, synths, electronic elements. And then we lead into another iconic single, Breaking the Habit. Another power ballad on this album. This is not really a nu metal song as much as it is like more of an alternative rock song. I'd actually say it kind of has like emo rock kind of vibes. But yeah, those acoustic guitars are iconic. And Chester's singing is just beautiful in this song. Memories consume like opening a wound. I'm picking me apart again. I don't want to be the one. The battle's on issues. I don't know what's worth fighting for or why I have to scream. I'm breaking the habit. I'm breaking the habit tonight. This song is like honestly perfect for like karaoke if you can continue those like long notes. But this song again is a massive like cry for help. I mean, just the middle section of the song. I'll paint it on the wall, 'cause I'm the one that falls. I'll never fight again if this is how it ends. This is the true kind of like self-discovery moment of the album, that you have the power to change this and make things better and to improve your life. It's just an incredibly like powerful song. The music video is also iconic. That anime music video featuring Chester, animated by Gainax Studios, who are iconic. in the anime industry. This song ends really dramatically. You can hear Chester's voice all kind of pixelized, and the song like fades, and then leads into track number 10, From the Inside. Both this song and Breaking the Habit were actually released a year after the album came out in 2004, so that's quite interesting. Now, I'm straight up gonna say it. From the Inside is my favorite Linkin Park song of all time. Like, I put this one above any of the others. Like I said, the entire album is a masterpiece, but this song in particular just connects with me so much. The song starts off with kind of very like subtle guitars, and then goes into that like heavy nu metal riffage. And then you get into those like somber sounding keyboards. I don't know who to trust, no surprise, everyone feels so far away from me. Heaven farts after dust, and the lies trying not to break. I'm so tired of this deceit. And then Chester's like vocal harmonies. And then you get into that absolutely powerful chorus. Take everything from the inside and throw it all away, 'cause I swear for the last time I won't find myself with you. It's just absolutely heartbreaking. It's a lot more somber than any of like the other like singles on the album. Surprisingly, I actually didn't know this song even had a music video till several years later, and the music video is great. It depicts the band in like a war zone type area, which is like aged very well with like the current state of the world, you know, the Middle East and such. And the breakdown in this song is absolutely just masterful. I won't waste myself for you. Waste myself for you. That bit of the song just connects with me so much because I've had fears that I've had ever since I was a child, and this song and obviously exposure therapy and all kinds of things have made me able to face those fears and to, you know, live more happily as an adult. And From the Inside kind of conveys that for me. Also, in terms of Meteora as a story, I think that From the Inside, like I said, it's kind of like grappling with like those depressive emotions while trying to realize that you're absolutely done with this thing that's causing you pain. And after the breakdown, it goes back into the chorus again. And this song, like I said, these songs are only like 2 minutes or so long, 3 minutes at tops, but they just give like a burst of energy. From the Inside, favorite Linkin Park song of all time. And I'm surprised that it's like not as big, despite it being like a single with a music video. Track 11 is something a little bit more light-hearted and experimental. This is like Nobody's Listening. The entire song has a sample of like Japanese flutes in the background. Like they play through the entire song. This song is more like a rap song than any sort of like, you know, nu metal type stuff, but it's really interesting. Mike's rapping is just like very quick. Rewind that and go with the rhythm, not to be forgotten, still unforgiven. The chorus though, Chester does like do some singing on it. Tried to give you warning, but everyone ignores me. Told you everything loud and clear, but nobody's listening. Heart full of pain, head full of stress, head full of anger, down in my chest, uphill struggle, blood, stress, and tears. Everything to gain, nothing to fear. It's almost kind of like funky like sounding in a way. However, even though I do love this song, it's probably my least favorite song on Meteora, just because I don't think it's as dramatic as, you know, the rest of the album and what it's known for. It's just my opinion though. But very underrated track. We've almost finished the album now, guys, but now we're at track number 12, Session. Just like Hybrid Theory had Cure for the Itch, this is more of like an experimental, entirely instrumental song. There is absolutely no singing, no rapping whatsoever in this song. It is just pure production wizardry in the studio. Just like all the sort of like, it's a lot more electronic sounding. It kind of predicted like Linkin Park's later career. But yeah, the song starts off very sort of like atmospheric and high pitched. And then like the drums kind of kick in with that kind of muted sound and then you kind of have those like, you know, inviting kind of sounds. It's almost like a door being opened and you're like transported to like another sort of galaxy. This song is just, it's really thought-provoking, I think, just listening to it. I love the keyboards. Obviously Johan as well does a lot of like stuff with like the keyboards, and there's all kinds of like strange high-pitched robotic noises in there. It's really interesting. And then the song ends, if you listen to it with headphones, you can actually hear the kind of like the waves go from, you know, the left speaker to the right speaker to the left speaker, then stops. It's an absolute treat for the ears, and I love it. I also think the reason this song is instrumental as well is that if you look at kind of like the story of Meteora, I feel like this song is kind of like, you know, after all the emotional, angsty, you know, anger-filled, somber tracks, Session is kind of like a chance to just kind of breathe and reflect, you know, a chance to like calm down and just think about things. It's really beautiful. This song was also on the Matrix Reloaded album. I think it was also on the, you know, end credits. You know, the movie also came out in 2003, so neat little time capsule that. Now we're on to the final track. Track number 13, probably the most well-known song on this album. One of Linkin Park's like top 5 most well-known songs, most streamed songs. That is Numb. Absolute iconic track. Not one of my favourites though, but I still enjoy it. It is a lot more of a power ballad. It starts off with those like iconic high-pitched like effects. And then the guitar's just kicking. You know, the iconic lyrics. Tired of being what you want me to be. Feeling so faithless, what's under the surface? You know, walking in your shoes, caught in the undertow, just caught in the undertow. And then that chorus, I've become so numb, I can feel you there. Become so tired, so much more aware. And that line in the chorus in particular, I'm becoming this, all I want to do is to be more like me and be less like you. If you look at the narrative of this album being sort of like coping through grief, I think Numb is like acceptance. You've found your true happiness, or at least something that helps you get through this, and you can finally say that for the most part you've healed over that traumatic experience. When I was a teenager, I was quite surprised when I first listened to this album on like my Samsung phone that Numb was like the ending song, because I already knew Numb before. It was one of the first Linkin Park songs I heard, but just seeing it was like the last song, I was like, oh, that's quite interesting actually. But looking back on it, it's really fitting as like the outro. Just that last little like burst of energy, you know. I also love the lyrics, and I know I may end up failing too. It's kind of like self-assuring that life isn't going to be perfect, but at least you tried to make things better, and there is some help out there, and there is hope in this world. I would also say this is like one of Linkin Park's most emo songs. Like, it tends to go in playlists with the sort of like emo pop punk stuff. Numb seems to get put in that playlist because like it's honestly like very fitting. Just the kind of more high-pitched kind of sound, and the more sort of like, it's a lot more gentler of a song. It's less nu metal and more alternative rock. So I can definitely see why the emo kids love this song so much. But yeah, this song is just powerful. It's triumphant, and it just feels like a big weight, a big like rock has just been lifted off your back. metaphorically, obviously. And then the album ends again with the, and then silence. That's it. Meteora has finished, and you just reflect on the masterpiece you've listened to for the past, 30 minutes? What else can I say about this album? There isn't a single skippable track here. I think all of them can be listened to as basically one song. Also, with the fact that the songs just flow into each other like perfectly, I love when albums do that. They don't really tend to do that as much anymore. It's kind of a relic, of the era that I kind of wish came back, to be honest with you. But maybe it's out there, it's just there's too much music nowadays to catch up. But anyway, my feelings haven't changed on this album. It's aged incredibly well, and even though my music tastes have changed, Meteor still hits close to home. Like, for example, a lot of the super, mainstream nu metal bands, maybe with the exception of Korn, I guess, I don't really listen to anymore. Deftones I got kind of tired of. Not really their fault, but just their kind of reputation nowadays. Slipknot, I still think their old music is good, but just my tastes kind of mellowed out, and the current state of the band, don't like them anymore, too corporate. And Disturbed, most of their music, maybe with the exception of the Believe album, they just haven't aged well for me. Especially nowadays, their new albums are complete crap. But the first two Linkin Park albums, or maybe the first three, Minutes to Midnight, still hold up for me. Still enjoy them to this day, nearly 10 years after I've listened to them. And I think a lot of people agree with me. Sadly, there are, some contrarians that don't like Meteora because it didn't experiment much from Hybrid Theory, or, it got too soft or something like that. I don't really understand that. I think this was, a perfect sort of, follow-up. Something, not too different, but still tried to mix things up, experiment, a little bit. It's also interesting to mention that I think the year 2003 was kind of the last year where nu metal was kind of a consistent genre. After 03, it kind of just felt like genres like emo and metalcore, were kind of taking its audience away, and just trends had changed and things like that. So in a way, Meteor is kind of like a swan song, for the genre. Thanks for watching, guys. I know this has been a very long video, but this album is incredibly special to me. It got me through, my teen years, and I still listen to it to this day. It definitely helped to kind of shape the person I am. Honestly, I have a lot of nostalgia for it, and it's just an excuse to gush about Linkin Park's music, for half an hour. So, I hope you guys don't mind that. Well, if you got this far in the video, I appreciate it. Again, big shout out to you all. Everybody who managed to get me this far, I love you guys. You guys are absolute goats. Once again, thanks for watching, guys. See you next time. Peace. And stay safe.